I'm getting a little bit annoyed with More Perfect Union because it feels like they're doing the noble savage thing that I've called out and that bothers me. I have nothing against talking to rural Trump supporters to find out like why they think what they think and why they believe what they believe, but you have to be really, really careful in how you do it because you don't want to legitimize their grievances, right? Like, I have nothing against going to Sundown Town and asking Klanners why they're racist or like why they voted for Trump or whatever. That's fine. Like, yeah, that's, you can learn a lot from that. But you don't want to like portray this narrative of them being like earnest down home folks who have been left behind by the coastal cities or whatever, because then you're playing into the exact narrative that they use to justify every bad thing they do and believe. I just put the video.
If you vote for this, you're going to get what you voted for. But that's what people say every election.
A catastrophic wave of layoffs is hitting electricians in Maine. It may be a preview of hundreds of thousands of jobs that could be lost nationwide after President Trump and Republicans just repealed billions in clean energy investments.
It was like a light switch got opened, and all of our work just disappeared overnight.
We went to Maine, where a solar boom has already come to an abrupt halt.
I got laid off at the beginning of May. I haven't gotten any calls yet.
I'm on unemployment right now, and in the state of Maine, that's $595 per week, and I pay rent, that's $1,350 a month.
This has nothing to do with our local union or the companies around us bidding jobs. It solely comes down to what's happening in our federal government right now.
I want to be clear, by the way, that I do like More Perfect Union a lot. Okay, this is I think they do good work. I'm sorry, I opened in like a critical way because my heart is full of hate, but it's not reflective of like the totality of the opinion that I have.
We came here to talk to electricians who voted for Trump to understand how are they thinking about his agenda.
All of them voted for
now
Trump?
that it's costing
No
them
way.
work. We're outside Bangor, Maine, and we're headed to meet an apprentice electrician who's been working steadily for the last several years, but suddenly he finds himself unemployed, and he wants to talk to us about why.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, how are you? Sam.
Braden, come right in.
Thank you so much.
A good friend of mine in high school, he was 3 grades above me, and whenever I'd go over to his house, he'd have $2,000 guitars, like a $5,000 Marshall amplifier.
Cool.
And I'm like, where are you getting all this money, dude? And he's like, well, I'm an electrician. I'm learning to be an electrician. You should do it too.
Braden House is an apprentice electrician who last year voted for Trump.
After finding out I was having my daughter at 17, I'm like, I need money, and it ain't gonna be spent on guitars and amplifiers. It's gonna be spent on diapers and making a future for this kid. I applied to the apprenticeship and heard back in March of 22, and I started work 3 weeks after I graduated high school. I'm a 17-year-old kid. They're asking me like life experience questions. I'm like, I don't know, dude, I work at a Dunkin' Donuts. My first week I get in, I get a check for $1,300 for a 40-hour week, and I'm like, yep, this is what I'm doing now. I'm sticking with this.
Okay.
Obviously, you see the arrays of solar panels, and you see underneath it.
Braden took me to one of the 8 solar projects he has helped build over the last several years.
Nothing beats like just before August, like May to June in a solar field.
I remember being on a solar field one day, and I get an email of my Lincoln Financial account. I'm like, holy shit, I've only been doing this for a year and a half, and I have $3 grand in my retirement account.
Why do you think the work was so steady?
Because there were so many solar projects. You can't go anywhere in the state without seeing a solar field or multiple.
It kept every electrician in our local union employed.
Scott Cuddy is a longtime electrician out of the same union local as Braden. He told me that until recently, there were so few jobs for electricians.
You have to feel a little bad. You can feel bad until he says why he voted for Trump, right?
That they had to take across-the-board pay cuts to get work.
We had 0 solar projects going on for years and years and years. Guys were traveling to other jurisdictions to go work on solar projects.
That started to change in 2022.
President Biden's signing of the Inflation Reduction Act today comes after more than a year of negotiations among Democrats in Congress.
The Inflation Reduction Act was the largest federal investment in clean energy jobs in American history. It provided tax credits that encouraged business to build renewable projects like solar, wind, and battery storage. And as those projects multiplied, the landscape for skilled trades workers transformed.
The rate for a union electrician is currently about $39 an hour.
Sheesh.
2020, we were at about $29, $30 bucks an
Threw
hour.
it away.
So we have seen an enormous increase in the wages for the people doing the work, and that's because when you have work to do, you get bargaining power.
They were so desperate for people, they'd raise the amount of money they'd pay you per hour to get you there, and it was competitive. Companies were competing on how much they would pay their guys to get the amount of guys that they needed to finish these solar fields. Solar, it fed my family. You know, solar lined my pockets, and it gave me work for years.
Take me through your thinking. What was your thinking when you decided to vote for Trump?
There you go.
When I voted for Trump, my big thing was I agreed with his stance on immigration. I agreed with his idea of no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. I liked his stance on no new wars. And now we're seeing the exact opposite happen. The immigration
I can't wait for him to vote down ticket Republican next election.
thing and Palestine were two of the biggest things that turned people off to the Biden administration and to the potential Harris administration. At least in who I've spoken to on job sites.
What was your reaction when Trump was elected?
I was not surprised.
But were you happy? I mean, you voted for Trump.
Yeah, I was pretty happy. Happy's not the right word. I was indifferent. I was more, great. The better of two evils.
When somebody says you agree with his position on immigration, you have to understand how much racist propaganda there is behind that. Look, like the whites who benefited from the New Deal before him, he was given an economic leg up thanks to the benevolence of a Democratic president, and then he traded it away because he was successfully fearmongered to about non-whites. Nobody agrees with Trump's position on immigration, which, by the way, includes RNC rallies with people holding up flags, deport 20 million, deport them all. Nobody, this is not a sensible position to have on immigration. If your position is like, oh, maybe it's bad to have so many illegal immigrants, we should do something to give them a pathway to citizenship, or we should do something to moderate, these are not what Trump's positions are. It's racial animus. So when people say, what I'm hearing is the same thing again. You were given a leg up by a Democrat, and a Republican told you that blacks were getting it too, so you voted to take it away. And that's it. Browns, I guess, in this point, but you understand what I mean. Maybe, now in this case, this fella's genuinely quite young. I guess I'm more talking about a class disposition, but you have to understand that there are millions of people like this, and they are not one solid argument away from moving over on this stuff, Trust me, I would know.
Let's hope nothing goes bad, and then now it's going bad.
Since January, at least $14 billion of renewable energy projects have been canceled or put on hold across the U.S., including 3 big solar and battery developments in Maine.
The February union meeting of this year, of 2025, the business manager during his report said, guys, I can chart out full employment to mid-2027 right now. At the March union meeting, he said, we're going to be looking at 50% unemployment this summer. It went from, I can see full work, get your strength back so you can get back out on the job for the next thing, till 2027, to we will be at 50% unemployment this year. The uncertainty has devastated the construction industry in Maine. I think an important point in this is the tax credits aren't.
So this is a criticism that I have of More Perfect Union. I really want them to ask more questions about why they voted for Trump. If the point of this is to try to understand the disconnect between people's perceived interests and actual interests, we need to know more about why they voted the way they did. It's not enough to just say to get them to say well, I agreed on immigration. That was the first thing that he said. He cared more about immigration than he did no new wars or tax on tips. He instantly answered with that. That was the first thing that came to his mind. Why?
Even gone yet.
A week after this conversation, Republicans in Congress passed Trump's so-called Big Beautiful Bill, drastically scaling back investments in solar and wind. The bill rapidly phases out the Inflation Reduction Act's clean energy investments,
because the video is structured to make this guy out to be a victim, and to an extent he is, but he's also a brutalizer. He voted for Trump not just in spite of, but because of a promised campaign to engage in the biggest mass deportation in history. He voted for suffering. The explicit stated goal of the Trump administration was an ethnic cleansing. It was not, they didn't code it or hide it. It was upfront the entire campaign, and that was the first thing that he said. So I mean, he's a victim of his own poor decision making, I suppose, to an extent, but he's not really the victim in the broader sense.
Bring funding only for projects up and running in the next 18 months.
In his mind, he was voting for criminals getting deported. Yeah, but if you believe that, you're stupid. And I don't think anyone really believed that. 20 million criminals? I just don't believe that. Unless you think that 20 million criminals, like that include like everyone who immigrated here illegally is a criminal. Like you don't even have a definition of criminal outside of that. And if that's what you think, then you're just as monstrous. So for the crime of arriving here illegally 35 years ago, you should break up families, send people home to countries they've never lived in? Like, no, I don't buy it. I'm sorry. There should be social consequences to being this stupid. I think it's racism. And if it's not, then I think it is anyway, because I think that a thought process that bad, that stupid, reveals a racial animus in like a, you know, negative space kind of way. Like you would have to be some kind of racist to see deport 20 million people, oorah, oorah, and not understand what was going on. Not caring about racism is racist.
Will likely derail hundreds of billions of dollars of planned construction and eliminate hundreds of thousands of jobs. When did you realize this would affect you?
It really hit me about 2 weeks into my layoff, because at first it was like, yeah, these layoffs should only last 1 or 2 weeks, and then the 4th week came around, and that's when it really hit me that we might be in for no work for a while.
Braden is one of 66 apprentices in his union who've been laid off since April. He's now on a waiting list for the next job, with nearly 30 people ahead of him.
I've seen 3 people move off that list in the last 60 days. In summer, usually everyone's employed. Usually there's enough work that everyone's employed. Right now, seeing only 3 people move in 60 days, it's bleak.
I will terminate the Green New scam immediately. It's the greatest scam.
They love to have the guys standing behind them in the hard hats when they have a press conference, but when it comes to doing the actual policy that will actually help us, we have that policy in place right now. It's the IRA. It's helped bring more people into the trades. It's helped us get paid more. And this.
I know unions are good. I want to know more about why they choose to vote against their interests.
It's across the board. The policy's in place. If you just let the policy survive, we'll be fine.
That's true, but there's a billion-dollar industry built to gaslight these people? Yeah, by making them racist. How do you think the right wing uses talk radio to motivate these people to vote against their own interests? Like, yeah, obviously everyone who's racist had to be educated into racism. Nobody is, like, naturally racist. But yeah, like, it's always how it is, right?
This is a great bill. This is going to be a great bill for the country.
I think he could swallow his pride. He's cutting the things that Joe Biden did that made labor so good in the name of, I don't like Joe Biden, so I don't want to stand for anything he stood for.
He said he would do all of this.
But you shouldn't be cutting something that your predecessor did that was good because he's your predecessor.
He loves doing that. That's like one of the main things he likes doing.
You should continue to build on the good things he did. If it's creating jobs, if it's boosting the economy.
This is analysis that only happens post hoc. And I want you to ask, if you could go back, would you change your vote? So far, nobody has said yes. Of all of the videos we've seen where CNN or MSNBC or whatever, they've done these interviews, they never change their vote. And dog, it's not like I like Kamala Harris or anything, okay? But like him switching his vote in his head from Trump to Kamala Harris would mean something. But they never do, and that also means something.
Why get rid of it?
I want to know more. They will keep voting Republican? Overwhelmingly, yes. So basically, he's stupid, not evil. He was asked why he voted for Trump, even though it destroyed his industry, and his answer was, I wanted 20 million people to be violently ejected from the country for no reason. I don't know. Nobody thinks they're evil. Like, literally every bad thing that has ever been done, some guy's been like, well, it's not evil to do this bad thing. It's, like, necessary because of, like, reasons. They did that with the Holocaust. They're doing that with Gaza. Like, I don't know. Like, everyone's given an excuse. Why not just blame the Democrats? You think I don't blame the Democrats? You think I'm uncomfortable blaming the Democrats? No. This one's on this guy, okay? You need to do your own clickbait wasteland style man the street video. Nah, I don't think I'm good at interviews. It's good you blame Democrats, but you were blaming voters an hour ago. Why can't you do both? Why can't you systemically or systematically criticize the Democrats for their horrible campaigning and horrible policies, but also acknowledge the fact that the only reason we're in this position right now is because tens of millions of Americans voted on racial animus? God, the post-2016, like, Trump supporters voted because of economic anxiety bullshit, how poorly that all aged, huh? What a psyop from Red Scare types and contrarians over at the New York Times trying to convince everyone there was like a secret smart version of the explanation for why Trump won, as opposed to the actual reason, which is people are stupid and racist. It's the same reason people like Trump have won in every country in every time period. You can boil it down, you can add nuance if you want. It's the same dynamic every time. Economic anxiety. Yeah. Trump did so much for that. Come on. And if you really think that's the sticker, that it was economic anxiety, in spite of the fact that everything got worse under Trump, like he didn't bring jobs back, you know, all of the underlying issues like housing prices skyrocketing and the unavailability of jobs and people being underemployed and so on, like none of those things were fixed in any way. The GDP continued to go up much as it had under Obama, so it seems like it's the exact same like course that was set.